I'm going to pull in right here. So that second train station was built in 1916. So that year we've got two train stations. Both of them are bringing in passenger trains almost on the hour. With so many travelers coming through, Greer needed a hotel. So on this corner, this whole grassy area, and about half of that, a huge two-story building was built. On the first floor, there were stores, a Five and Dime, and a pharmacy. The whole second floor was the Greer Hotel. In just 2 years later, 1918, there was a doctor, an optometrist down in Greenville. His name was Dr. Barber. Dr. Barber heard about this growing new town down in Greer, up in Greer, and he came to visit. And he very quickly realized, down in Greenville, there are a lot of optometrists. He had a competition. But in this new town, he would be the only one. He could have it to himself. So he bought the whole Greer Hotel. He moved his family up, wife and two little girls. They moved into some rooms upstairs on that side facing Randall Street. He turned one of the rooms into his office, and his wife ran the hotel. So the Barber family, very quickly, you need to know one thing about one of their daughters. These two little girls, I don't know their ages, we've never heard, but one of them, we do know this, she absolutely loved horses. You probably know a girl like that, right? The horse lover. In 1918, at that point, Greer had dirt streets, no cars, so lots of horses. Her bedroom was on this side, and looking down on Randall Street, right below her bedroom window, was a large watering trough. And the horses would all come and drink under her bedroom window. And she spent many happy hours watching the horses. Now, one night, soon after they moved in, she was in bed and she heard a sound that she loved, the sound of a horse drinking water. She got out of bed and went to the window, and she looked down, and clear as day she could hear the horse drinking water, but she could see the trough, but there was no horse there. And she thought, that was really weird. So she went over to her sister, who by this point was sound asleep. And she woke her up, and she dragged her to the window. And of course, she had dragged her sister many times to see the horses. So her sister looks out, and she's like, why did you get me up? There's nothing here. And she said, yeah, but listen. And sure enough, the sister could hear a horse drinking clear as day. No horse there. So the next morning, they got up, and they went to breakfast, and they told their mother, we think we heard a ghost horse last night. That's what their brains thought. Must be a ghost. And they told exactly what had happened. And that good Southern mama said what all good Southern mamas say, honey, there's no such thing as a ghost, right? By the way, we are going to have scoundrels and scalawags up and down these streets. It happens every single tour, and I'll just pause when that happens, sorry. So the mother didn't believe them and tried to talk them out of it. But that night they went to bed, and that little girl heard a horse drinking again, and she jumped up and looked, and there was no horse there. So she ran and got Mom. And Mama comes to the window, and she looks out, and absolutely heard the horse drinking, no question about it, sees the trough, and there is no horse around. She was incredibly puzzled. And they heard horses drinking at that trough with no horse in sight over and over the whole time they stayed in this hotel. The Barber family, that was such a family significant thing to have experienced that they passed that story down generation to generation. There are still Barber family members that live in Greer, and they told us this story with the utmost seriousness. This is a family thing. Now, there's an interesting twist to the story. That watering trough from Randall Street is actually in the Greer Heritage Museum right now. I'll show it to you when we get there in a few minutes. And I discovered a secret about it that kind of sheds light on the story, so I'll tell you that when we get there. But now let's go up. I've got about halfway up this block, an interesting story about what we call our almost ghost.